This is Rocky Snyder. At the tone, leave your name and message and I'll get back to you.
It's your mother.
I just want to tell you, your show is absolutely remarkable. I cannot believe how great you are. I mean this with all sincerity. And there was something else I wanted to tell you, but I'm so tired. I can't think what it is.
Well, welcome to the RockFit Files. In this edition, I've invited Chris Poirier from Perform Better on. And if you're not familiar with Perform Better, first of all, shame on you, because you should be. If you're in the fitness industry, you should just hear the words Perform Better and go, oh, yeah, what's coming out next? Because they, as far as I'm concerned, in my humble opinion, are the leaders in the fitness industry when it comes to not only products, but education and information. And they have been leading the charge for at least the past 20 years that I'm familiar with. And so, Chris, hey, thanks for taking some time out. Welcome to the RockFit Files.
Rocky, thanks for having me. It's great to be on. I like the Rockford Files.
Yeah, you remember
sort
James
of a takeoff
Garner.
of the Rockford File. Yeah, I like
exactly.
it. Yeah.
I don't have his cool car. You know, I've got some little Yamaha
Not many
scooter.
people do.
No, that's what I would like to have, though. And so, let's just right from the get-go. I want to find. I love the superhero origin stories. Whether it's yourself and how you came into being with Perform Better, I would love to know that. But also how Perform Better came along. So I love learning the history of companies and how an idea blossoms into what it is today.
Sure, definitely. Well, a little background about the company, and then I'll go into me and how I came into fit with Perform Better. But MF Athletic has been around for, I believe it's been now 60 some years, much older than I did. Bill Falk started the company, and he started it with the heel protector, the hard shell heel protector. He invented it. He invented it with an athletic trainer from Brown University. Bill, after the first year they invented it, Bill took it over because his partner didn't want to be involved in the company and basically just said, I don't have time to do anything with the business. I just, we came up with it, we have it. But it was the hard shell heel cup. So it was the first of its kind of a heel cup that was you put in your shoe for plantar fasciitis. And the reason why Bill came up with that and why he came up with it with an athletic trainer was Bill was a track and field coach. He was a collegiate track and field coach. So he trained and coached a lot of track athletes, and his specialty was the jumps, whether it was a long jump, high jump, or the pole vaulting. So yeah, pole vaulting, correct, which pole vault really was his forte. But any jumps, and actually Bill's mind was he could train any track and field athlete.
I did pole vault in high school. I only stand like 5'2", so I don't have the advantage. And getting that pole to bend, I tell you, that was the hardest thing. I could go under the bar really well. I don't know if you
That makes me too. I can get under it very, very well. Getting over it is very difficult. But he came up with the heel cup as a way to, because he was having a lot of plantar fasciitis problems, with that penultimate step where they just pounding that heel into the ground before the takeoff on the jumps. Having that problem. So we came with the heel cup that was form fitting, put in your shoe, and it allowed it to protect the heel and alleviate a lot of the pain from plantar fasciitis. As Bill grew the MF, which was podiatrists and athletic trainers that he was sending it to, and coaches, and giving them out to coaches who were having the same problems with their athletes, he was still obviously coaching track and field. And so Bill started while he was coaching with his wife and his two kids, they started out of his basement, they started selling pole vaulting poles. So Bill was a specialty in track and field and realized how difficult as a coach it was to get pole vaulting poles in season. Again, now we're talking 30 to 40 years ago, 30 plus years ago. How difficult it was for a pole vaulter to get a different pole during season. And as you being a pole vaulter know everything about there's only a couple ways to keep gaining height. And one of those ways is you got to keep moving on to a bigger pole or a pole that bends more or heavier weighted that can give you the bend to get up and over to shoot you up, or longer. So, and that's very common. Unfortunately, it's not like baseball where you can go through a whole season with one glove. If you're a pole vaulter, you're going to need 4 or 5 different poles as you're progressing through the season. So he started to sell poles out of his basement. So he would coach his son, and his wife would they'd take the orders during the day, sent out to track coaches a brochure. That really started the MF Athletic Company, which was everything track and field. So they started obviously with poles, but then they branched out to javelins, hammers, every type of implement that has a little twist to it that needs something a little bit more for an athlete. So they were selling implements out of. Well, in '92, Bill always had this philosophy that all athletes should train not exactly like track and field athletes, but they should have the same principles as far as you have to run faster, you need stamina, you need explosive power, you need strength, you need to be able to jump. So all of the traits that required of all the individual events in track and field, he felt that all athletes should train for those and be balanced in all of them, and therefore become a better athlete. So that was Bill's philosophy. And he had this idea or this vision of coming out with a catalog, which would be Perform Better, to perform better in your sport. And the first market at the time, this was back in '92, and I graduated from college for a couple of years in '90. I played football at University of Rhode Island. I just came back from playing overseas in Europe from playing football. And I was done playing football. I was ready to move on. I was still coaching over here. I was coaching high school football, but I wasn't having a fun time coaching. It wasn't, you have people who are meant to be coaches, and then you have me, people who like the vision of being a coach. But a coach was definitely not my background. And, so I was looking to then adjust and to move out of coaching. I basically decided I was done playing. I was not going to go back over to Europe and play again. So I was in my 3rd season of being a high school coach, and I knew the family. I knew Bill because Bill coached at the university I played at, University of Rhode Island. So I knew his name. I also knew his, and again, here's always say, you always want to know someone, know a hairdresser. Well, my sister was the hairdresser to Bill's wife, who was part of running the company. Of course, a hairdresser, everybody, right? So
that's it.
So I knew the Falk family as I was an athlete, and I knew them afterwards. And one of the things they were looking for someone to come in and head up Perform Better and to go after football coaches. Now, at the time, football was really the only sport back in the early '90s that was training outside of their regular season. So football made sense. They had money. Training was pretty common and norm. We just wanted to train this style of training. We wanted to implement this functional training sort of terminology back that was pretty new. What you think about it, everyone throws around functional training now, but in 1992, functional training was very uncommon. And actually it was fought by a lot of people. A lot of people were like, nah,
I read a little bit about Bill saying that, it's all about integrative movement, the body working as a whole and not isolating. And of course, most of us were still in the bodybuilding phase of life in the early '90s. Correct. Yeah, he was ahead of his time. There you go.
Correct. And everything in the weight room was about weights. We were still neglecting the speed. We were neglecting the power. We were neglecting the functional strength, the 360 strength, the 3 dimensions of movement. So everything was coming together. Now, that's when I came in as a football background, as we were going to go out and market to football coaches. So that's how I came in. Now, I had the pleasure at the time that I came in. We just signed a contract with a guy called Vern Gambetta, who was director of conditioning for the Chicago White Sox. He was down in Florida. He had a track background, so he knew Bill in track and field. He knew of the company, and he had this philosophy, just like Bill, of functional training. And so we sort of latched onto him, and he sort of became a consultant to us. So we had Vern speaking at multiple seminars that we'd sponsor him to speak at. Vern also ran a seminars on his own called Building and Rebuilding the Athlete, which was basically it's one of those courses that's been, that hasn't been around for a long, long time, but it's still I still think it's one of those courses that still needs to come back because it's the term functional training has been botched in the last 20 years so badly. And, I think what his message is about functional training and a continuum and and training movements, not muscles, and not body parts. So it was a really good philosophy, and it sort of embedded us into that philosophy, and it embedded us into what type of products we were going to carry. So when you look at the first, in 92, our first catalog that we put out was, medicine balls and bands and stability balls. It was stuff that you would think, oh, they're very common training tools now, but they weren't back then. It was very uncommon. And we had a huge speed section of ways to train speed, whether it was sled, resistant type stuff that track coaches would know, but not many other coaches would know, that wouldn't be so common with. So that was sort of our market. It was a 16-page black and white catalog. I think we did 15 shows. 10 of them were probably football shows, and the other 5 were something, where one was a strength and conditioning, and a couple were Vern seminars. But it was sort of a growing process. So, which leads me into a long story going short here, because we talk about how do we get into seminars, which has a big part of that, because we were sponsoring Vern. So we would sponsor him to speak at a seminar, which we would hire him, as a consultant to go into a seminar. We would go to the conference and say, hey, we'll put a speaker in this time slot. You just give us the time slot. Nothing, we're still paying for a booth. We're still having everything else. We just want to provide education. So it's sort of got us out there when I look back at it and see what it was, I think we were still one of the first ones to provide education at a seminar that way. I don't remember anybody else doing it. Now, I could be way off, and people are probably listening to this and saying, oh, now there was others that did it. Probably were, but I don't remember anyone else doing it.
No, there weren't any standouts. I mean, I've been going since 93 or so to all these conferences. And so you had to go to the associations where people were getting certified. You didn't have the other ones. And Vern, by the way, I love Vern. I love his opinions. And I love that he is not afraid to put them out there. He does not mince words. But the stuff he says stands the test of time. So, boy, it's nice to know. And I've seen him present on so many occasions. He had something going on down in Texas every year or two with a whole bunch of other coaches. They put on something right now. Of course, it didn't happen this summer, but anytime I get a chance to listen to Vern, it's been good. So you got him involved with the educational process. And then what happened?
Correct. So we're doing this for about 4 years. We're having him go out and sponsor him to speak, and we're going to other shows, and we're slowly growing, and we're starting to build a background, and our catalog is starting to grow. We go from 16 to 32 to 48 pages. We're now in color. Product selection is starting to grow, and it's growing wider. And around 96, I started thinking, in 96, the summer of 96, or I should say the spring of 96, I went to a seminar at Boston University that a friend of mine in Massachusetts, who was the NSCA state director, was putting on a seminar. He was just doing a seminar in Boston.
Was that Hank?
It was Hank Trout. Hank.
Oh my gosh. I love it.
Yeah.
Good guy. Hank Trout.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Really, really, really good guy. And so Hank just was him and Avery Fagenbaum were putting a seminar together at Boston University, and they had Mike Boyle as as a speaker that was at his gym. So Mike was hosting it. They had about 70 coaches starting to come in. Now training is starting to become pretty popular, personal training as well. So and I was starting to see the crossover with personal trainers and strength and conditioning and how they were blending. And I also was seeing with Vern too, as well, in the functional world, is I was seeing how the rehab was blending in as well. So the therapists were all blending in. So a lot of what, whether it's the therapist, the strength coach, or the personal trainer, a lot of what they were doing is blending in together. And just a lot of the exercises they were doing, a lot of the equipment they were using is the same. It's just, obviously depending on what level you're at, the weight's different, or the speed of the movement is different. Obviously the higher an athlete, you have higher, you have heavier weights and more explosive movements. Whereas in rehab, you're going to have lighter weights, and lesser explosive movements. So Is that an oxymoron, by the way? Lesser
Uh,
explosive,
I,
like.
I'm still getting over the fact that this is such a small world because, with the NSCA in the early 90s,
Yeah,
some of the first professionals I befriended were Hank and Avery.
yeah.
And now it's come full circle. Avery was going off on a tangent with youth sports.
You
He
stuff,
came
yeah,
out with the whole position statement on prepubescent adolescent strength training for the NSCA. And Hank, being the Massachusetts state director, did a whole bunch of stuff back there. And I had no idea that these were the underpinnings of how
yeah,
Perform Better in '97 was starting to come out there. That's
yeah.
fantastic. It doesn't surprise me, mind you, but it's a nice little kind of smirk on my face.
Yeah, no, it
Uh,
is. So at this seminar, I'm thinking the entire day at the seminar, I'm thinking like, wow, there's some great people at this. And there were 70 people or so at the seminar. It was my first time I heard Mike Boyle. Now, Mike was a customer of ours. I knew who Mike was because he was buying stuff from us. But I never heard him speak live. And so I really got grounded into Mike, and what he was saying, I really, really liked. And um, I was looking at the idea of the seminar, and I'm thinking to myself, all right, for the last 4 years, we've been paying speakers to go to different seminars and to speak, and paying their expenses to go and providing them at no charge to the organization except for just the platform. So I'm thinking to myself, why don't we just create our own platform? Because I was getting a harder time. So every time, I would go and say, hey, I got a speaker, I'd like to get into your seminar, they would be, well, we got to find out a little bit more about them. And I get it with the organization. They just don't want everyone to come on board.
sure.
And from a company standpoint, as you're a company trying to promote education, it's like, well, you're going to put somebody on stage that all they're going to do is talk about your products. And it's not what we want to do. We wanted to talk about education and training because we knew that if we were associated with the education and training, we would be a part of it. We were already seeing this for 4 years, how it was. So I'm thinking to myself at that seminar, why don't we just, it's getting harder and harder to put different speakers in. I want to get more speakers involved, but I'm having a tough time getting them into places to speak. Why don't we just we start to do a couple of our own and just, we got nothing to lose. It's a grassroots program. I don't have to make money. Our goal was never to make money on education. Our goal was, hey, if we could come close to breaking even, then, provide a great price for them, get great speakers, provide a great day of education and come close to breaking even. It was just like we were putting a speaker in at a seminar because we're not,
Sure.
we're not breaking even there, but it was more of afterwards and what it meant to the growth of the company. So that's how the education rolled for us. And
That's
it
fantastic
was a pretty
because
big success.
honestly, one of the things that has allowed me to latch on to the Perform Better summits is that it's not an infomercial.
Yeah.
The speakers that come there, they're not there to try and promote any products. Granted, the products are there, but they're
Correct.
they're not saying, hey, if you act now, here, sign here. It's not like you're trying to put somebody in a corner and sell them everything under the sun. It is just strictly education. And based on the experience and knowledge of others, if you want to follow and pursue these footpaths that they have and they've found success, then you may want to look over here in the conference room, the exhibit halls, as to what they've been using. And so I love that whole, I'll say, for lack of a better term, that spiritual path of not trying to sell, but just to offer free advice and information out there. And then what comes tenfold in return is completely just a natural kind of thing. So go ahead.
And then we took it to another level. And this is where I really learned. Now the seminars for the next 10 years from 96 on, we did this, we started to increase our 1 days into, we added multiple cities every year. And, by 2000, we were up to doing like 8 or 9 cities a year, doing these 1 days of our own, these Perform Better 1 days with 3 speakers or 4 speakers going in and doing a day long. Always been a hands-on. So there'd always been lecture and hands-on. That was sort of the key because, for us, if you think about the time too, we wanted to get people with their hands on the equipment. So listen to the X's and O's, the presentation, and they get their hands on the equipment. Some of the stuff was new to people, whether it was kettlebells. A lot of people have told me over the years, hey, the first time I ever touched a kettlebell was at your seminar, or the first time I ever touched a rubber band was at your seminar, or a stability ball, like,
Indian clubs.
Because Indian clubs, that's right, for Indian clubs. So it kept going, but the key in around, I think it was between 2008, 2010, I'm not exactly sure of the date. We kept seeing a lot of the same people coming back to the seminars and summits. And I, the couple people, there was a couple people that came to one year. There were new people that year. And I went up to them and I said, hey, and I knew them. I knew who they worked. I saw them at other seminars, and we were friendly, and they were getting equipment for us. And I went up and asked them, hey, first time coming, what do you think? And they were like, yeah, great seminar. The education's great. And I'm like, oh, I know you've been in the field for a while. Why the first time coming? Why all of us, all of a sudden? And they said something that I will never, ever forget. They said, we didn't come to your seminar in the past because we thought as an equipment company, you were going to try to sell us equipment. We thought it was going to be an infomercial at your seminar. And I was like, bang. Now, don't get me wrong. I was doing it wrong before there, because at first we were having titles that were around equipment. We had Carlos Santana and band training, stability ball training, dumbbell. Like we were using implements as part of the education, as part of what the topic was. And as you know, being a Perform Better speaker, that's the only thing I do not allow right now. So so from that day on, I changed it and I said, no more topics after a product. It's got to be a subject topic, whether it's strength and conditioning, whether it's rehab, whether, or training. I said, it's got to be a genuine topic, in that it can't be related to a product. I said, in your hands-on, you can use products. We're going to have a hands-on. And as you know, all my presenters, I never tell what equipment they have to have. The only equipment, well, actually you didn't know because we didn't get to the hands-ons, but one of the next phases would have been for a live event is I would ask Rocky, we had your topic, and we already, when we had your topic, I would have come and said, I would have sent an email out, what equipment do you need for your hands-on? I never tell any presenter what to get. I never say what they have to use. It's always up to them. It's always has to, relate to what their topic was and what they see as using it to basically coincide with what their topic is about and how they can do the hands-on for that topic. But I never tell them what they have to do, or, the only thing I tell them they can't do is they can't have a topic based around a product.
You did that so seamlessly, because I've been going to the Perform Better training summits in Long Beach, because that's a 6-hour drive from here. It's much easier to go to than, say, Chicago or Providence or wherever. But I think the first one I went to was either 2003 or 2004. And a little backstory on that before I get to the point there is that I had written a few books, and I had been to so many conferences from 1993 to 2003, 10 years of going to as many conferences as I can. And after a while, you hear the same thing over and over, 1,001 ways to do the bench press, a different way to do the sit-up, though there's no such thing. It's just, I really got burned out. And so I took some time off of going to conferences and started writing books. And it wasn't until I had a colleague go, hey, you need to go to this conference with me down in Long Beach. And I said, yeah, it's been a while. I could use the continuing education credits. And I was blown away. Honestly, I was blown away. This was when Gray and Lee were coming out with the FMS, of course. I think there were still 12 screens at the time. They were narrowing it down to 7. And the information that your speakers presented was just night and day difference between what everyone else did. It was talking about posture and integrated movement and everything else that no one was talking about. And so you had me, at hello, basically Jerry Maguire stuff. But somewhere along the way, like I didn't know that. I didn't know that you got to that point where you said, okay, we're not going to give talks around the products. But now that I look back, it becomes obvious to me that, of course, I think that's why the summits, honest to God, I think that's why the summits got even better, say 2012 to now.
Yeah.
I couldn't put my finger on why.
Yep. No, definitely. And we saw them just grow from there. I mean, we were sort of hitting stagnation.
Yeah, like 350
then it just,
people.
Yeah,
and suddenly
exactly.
There's 900
and then it
people
just suddenly all of a sudden in Providence we're getting 1,200 people. Like, and it took 2 people to tell me this, that I knew back, and I should have thought of it. I should have known. And I just, you get inside your own little box and you don't change. But so, and we've made minor little changes to the seminars here and there, but for the most part, they've been all from people's input of, advice of what to do, or maybe some ideas or suggestions of how to make it a little bit better. And that's what we've always been trying to do. I mean, I'm a guy I'm not a change guy just for change, but I do realize that things need to change to get better. You know what I mean? You can't stay the same and be better all the time. You just need to make slight little changes to it. And that's what we did. We kept, playing around with the seminars and changing them a little bit more, changing the structure a little bit more to try to make them better and better, not to revamp everything and to change how we did. Like we didn't go away from the hands-on. We still went, we still had the hands-on, because it's still a vital part of our seminar. I still get people that say, God, I love your hands-ons. I love doing the lecture and then going to hands-on. So we still get that all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So,
well, considering most of us trainers learn kinesthetically, I mean, that's probably why we're in the field to begin with. Visual and acoustic, that's a great way of learning, where we can sit still and listen to somebody. But until we actually get the movement through our body, I don't think we implant that information as deep. So it's really, for me, to have that hands-on follow-up or precursor to the lecture, either way it goes. And the other thing, I should basically be wearing a pleated skirt with pom with like Perform Better across my chest, or a PB or something like that. I can do that if you really want me to. But yeah, I think the listening audience is getting the key here, that a lot of my path has been helped and guided through the presenters that you have selected, and hand selected, by the way, over the years. And the thing that you mentioned change, and the one thing that I really appreciate is you've got a core selection of presenters that are solid rock stars and will give you a tremendous amount of different insight on a variety of subject matter within the field of high performance and rehab, and everywhere in between, bridging the gap, which Perform Better, by the way, has done remarkably, I think, better than almost any other organization out there, bridging the gap between rehab and performance. But you allow for other speakers to come in to offer a nice, refreshing viewpoint, or just another kind of an alternative view, which is really nice, because now we start to see all these other people and we can start following them. Like John Berardi, by the way, I think it was probably 7, maybe 8 years ago, you brought John Berardi in with Precision Nutrition, and just to see where he's gone with that. But it was such a refreshing approach to working with somebody in their eating lifestyle, or the way in which they live, that to me, that was one of the highlights of that year, is just listening to him give the talk, which was exactly the opposite of what everyone was expecting to hear when you talk about helping someone with their diet or their eating. So it's remarkable.
And and that's, I tell you, that's always the first, the first ones I go to when I'm looking for new speakers, is I go to some of the speakers that have been speaking for a while, the guys that know what's going on out there in the industry and have listened to a lot of different speakers. And I always ask them, who do you want to listen to? Who are the people you want to go to a conference and listen to? Like for me, I always wanted the best of the best there. That was my initial goal. I wanted the best. And, we were doing nutrition, and we've had some really, really good, nutrition presenters speaking for us. I mean, between, back in the early days that we had, obviously John Berardi spoke for us for years. We had Joey Antonio. We had a lot of really, really good nutritionists that was speaking for us. And someone came up to me and said, John Berardi is the guy. Precision Nutrition has it going on. So I reached out to John, and we got John speaking. Now, John spoke for us for like 8 years. And the only reason John went off the tour was because he had his third kid, and he just wanted to be grounded. He moved back to Canada and just didn't want to travel anymore. And I think since he's done that, he's come back a couple of times. So I always tell John, when you're ready to come back, send me an email. Like, just send me an email. We'll get you on. And I know he doesn't want to be an every year kind of guy, but every 2 or 3 years, I think John likes to come back. And I do find it beneficial, Rocky, to bring people back, because I think there's more that they have to offer than just what the talk was that they said. I think there's, we always try to change the topics with presenters. Even with John's nutrition stuff, he had a different topic every single presentation he gave, obviously related to nutrition, but it was always on something. It was always on a different subject of nutrition. And that's what we try to do. Some topics we bring back after a couple of years, I think Alan Cosgrove had program design this year, and we brought it back because he did that like 7 years ago. And, it was a really, really good topic. So some people, we say, hey, when we filter through and we're talking about their topics, we'll go back and we'll say, when back in so-and-so, this topic was awesome. Do you have new information on this? And then you may get, I revamped the whole thing. I'm like, well, can you come on and talk about how you revamped it and what new things you're doing now with the topic? So I do find the power of bringing people back, that have done a great job. And, if it was up to me, and if I had room for everyone in unlimited seminars, I would bring, everyone back every single year, over and over again for every single summit. But we just run out of locations and places and spots for everyone. But
well, you've built on some really good locations. Obviously, hometown, Providence, Rhode Island, that's going to be one of your biggest venues. Then you were, for the first few years, at least as I can recall, it was Chicago, Providence, and Long Beach. But somewhere along the way, you began adding Orlando to the mix.
Yeah.
And so now those are the 4 cities. So for those just kind of wondering what this is all about, basically Perform Better not only supplies incredible training, equipment, books, videos, great information, but they have these 3-day summits where we go and we learn for basically continuing education units and maintain our credentials. But it's not just for personal trainers. That's the beautiful thing, is like there's chiropractors, there's other types of movement specialists that may be Pilates instructors or PE coaches. I've met several PE teachers that are there, sport coaches and professional, recreational, Olympic level coaches as well, chiropractors, if I didn't say it, acupuncturists, body workers. It's an amalgamation of so many different modalities under one roof. And the beautiful thing is there's like everyone fits in the same room quite nicely, and we can take all the information that we deem appropriate for our modality, our approach, and somebody else may gleam onto something else. It's been really an amazing thing to kind of be a part of and witness. But now here we are in 2020, and COVID-19 was starting to loom in the shadows, come into February and March, and now you're getting into the training summit season, and you've got yourself with Orlando, of course, and Chicago. Long Beach is looming. Providence is usually your last one on the tour, correct?
Yeah, depending on when we can book the convention centers. But we try to make Providence the last one, but it doesn't always work out that way. But
But I think Providence is the name or the theme name for this year, because you did something quite remarkable. And I have to admit, my hat's off to you, and I am just in awe of what you created this summer with the Perform Better summer seminar series. You could have easily, just like so many others, just said, you know what, it's just not going to happen. We'll try and do some kind of online, and we'll reduce the rate and the cost, and you can come on and still do these things. But you did something completely different. How about describing what the idea that you had and what's happened?
So we were very blessed, in March, obviously, with everything, when the pandemic hit and everything was shutting down. I mean, obviously we didn't know what direction we were going to go. We knew we had to pivot in some direction because, 60% of our business, actually 90% of our business was shut down because the schools were all gone. The sports market just seemed to shut down. So 35% of our sports performance market just went completely flat. 55% of our fitness market just shut right down. And then, and then some of the rehab was a smaller percentage, but some were closed, some were open, some were still doing okay. But we knew that we didn't know what direction we were going to go. We knew obviously our other company, which is track and field, just got completely shut down. When school shut down and the sport shut down, everything shut down. So, and that happened in March, which March is our best month in track and field. Like that's our peak month. So you go from like riding a high, all of a sudden you just hit a wall and just everything just falls out, and you have people just stopping orders and no new orders for track and field, just completely stopped. So it was a direction of obviously pivoting, which we knew we had to do. And And it was an easy pivot for us because the first thing that happened on the day or a couple days before COVID was hitting, where a couple states were starting to see it and knew something was going to happen, is some of our great customers and loyal customers were calling us to try to put together packages for their clients because they knew they were going to have to do some home training. Yeah. So the first thing we started to do was, okay, we knew this right away. We knew we're going to pivot to a different market. Our customer right now is not going to be the gym because they're closed, but it's going to be their customer. And how we're getting to these customers is we're getting our own customers are giving us their customers to sell equipment to. So we were putting packages and deals together for them. We were trying to, as we were driving that, we came out in March with a whole education series that we were putting online, that we're doing, some of the business guys that were talking about online training. Because believe it or not, there was a lot of people that were not doing, even thinking. They were like, don't know how long it's going to be, 4 weeks. I'll shut my gym down for 4 weeks. I'll come back. Right. It'll be all right. Everyone come back. And we were trying to push the word to everyone to get out. Hey, if you're not doing online training, you got to do it. And the same, any business book or business principle will tell you when things go south, the first thing you want to do is get in touch with your customers. You want to be with them because if they're going south for you, they're going south for them as well. So giving them some ideas, and obviously, so for us, it was about maintaining and staying in touch with our customers, but we were also trying to spread the word for our customers to stay in touch with your customers. Don't let your members just go. So we were, between Rick Mayo, Tom Plummer, and countless other business minds, we're talking to people about, hey, getting in touch with them, the online training, doing something with them, getting something going. So for the whole month of March, we were starting to put together these videos for trainers and doing these online and doing the Zoom education. I mean, that was the first time I got a Zoom account on September. I'm sorry. I got a Zoom account on March 16th. And that was, because I was just coming back from California after everything closed down on the 12th. I was on my way, or the 13th, everything closed down, and I was on my way back that weekend. We were supposed to have a seminar in Orlando, but I was in LA at Cosgrove's at a business conference he was doing there, and then our seminar in Orlando got canceled, so I was on my way back here. But so that was my first Zoom account. So I'm like, now I'm trying to learn Zoom and try to pivot in that direction because I knew we were going to have to do some online stuff, and it was going to be our way of education. So it sort of worked well for us. Now, if this happened, 15 years ago, I'm sure there would have been somewhere where we would have pivoted to, or I should say 5 years ago or 8 years ago, that we would have pivoted somewhere, but I don't know where that pivot would have been, or if it would have been as successful as, either having Zoom or, the online resources that everyone has to train their customers. Because, virtually there was a lot of gyms were doing it, but they weren't doing it at first. We could start to get to April and May. Now they were starting to do it because everything was closed down longer than they thought. So that was the direction we pivoted. So, a long story short, and I apologize, but we saw that our customers were doing this for us. Our customers were giving us their customers. So we felt that we had to do something from it. And I was getting emails every day, and we're getting asked, the summit's on, are they going on? And at the time we didn't cancel them, but we knew it was very slim that they were going to go on. So we were telling everyone, we're going to do something. We're just not sure what we're going to do. And then I just, just one day I just said, you know what, let's do something completely different. Instead of doing, like 4 weekends of a summit, on Zoom summit, and charging people, let's just do 67 days this summer. Let's just do one a day, 2 hours, not overpowering. Everyone can stay on the same presenter. Let's just blast it out. Let's do it Monday through Friday. We tried to pick a time in the day that would be, that even Europe could watch it at night for our European followers. But in the US, we were looking for what is the least busiest time for a trainer. And I was, people were telling us in California that the early mornings are very busy, but up until like 11, it starts to slow down a little bit. And from East Coast, we're telling us, it's between 1 and 3 o'clock, 1 and 3:30 before they stop picking up again. So let's get somewhere in that range. Even though a lot of these places weren't back open yet, but we were knowing some of them were going to be open. So we had to pick a time wise. And then at the end, I just said, you know what, for how blessed we were with how people sent us their customers, let's just do these summits for free. Let's keep the spirit alive. And and do this. And I thought, I've seen so many seminars over the last 29 years either stop 1 year for weather, for low attendance, for anything. Just something happened that they had to cancel and they never come back. So I felt that it's, that was a big fear. I was like, okay, it's much easier to, when you stop something, to not have it come back. It's almost a lot more work to get it going again.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm not going to have that happen. I got to keep the ball rolling. I got to, we've been doing it too long to have it stop and not continue on. So we said, we'll do this, and we're going to do it for free.
And that's jaw dropping. I mean, I went out when you gave me the news of what was going on and the schedule started coming out and so on. I would post it on some social media with some links to the website showing what the calendar was going to be like. And the trainers in these forums that I belong to, you can almost hear their jaw drop. They're going, are you kidding me? We're getting continuing education units for everyone we attend. And there's going to be 67 days every weekday in the summer, with the exception of like 4th of July or whatever. But, and this is just free. It's unheard of. It was just, and what a way to give back. I mean, it's still going on. I don't know when this podcast will post. It's probably going to be near the end of September. So it'll be coming near the end of them, but this has been going on from mid-June all the way to the middle of September. Every weekday there's a presenter, and I love the spectrum of the topics that have been discussed thus far. And of course, in the business realm here, and we talked before the show here and saying that we're working 4 times as hard for the same amount. And so for that time, because of that, I have missed several of the presenters at 11 a.m. because I'm either online with clients somewhere in the country or in the world, or I'm in meetings trying to determine how are we going to continue to keep offering services when we're not allowed inside, but we can go outside. But then we get the fires in Central California that are bringing the smoke, so now we can't go outside. So it's been an amazing adventure, I'll say that. But so that brings me to the fact that this isn't a one and done. Like, if you missed out on a presenter who you really wanted to see, you're still going to be able to watch them. Is that true?
That's true. Yeah. So we've I know we've been saying this all summer. So Perform Better has been working on an app. We've been working on Michelle Dalcourt. I think you know Michelle.
Yeah.
And another one of our speakers. And Michelle had developed an app a couple of years ago called IOM, the Institute of Motion app. And we actually took a platform off of his app. I like some things that he did with his app, and we created channels and educational things. So we wanted to come up with a platform, not just a website where they could go to our site and then watch some videos of seminars. We wanted to create the app that's always going to be on their phone, that any given time they can click it on and they can watch presenters. So for the last couple of years, we've been putting this app together and building it. But we've been building it with video. So for the last 3 years, we've been filming summits, and not high quality filming, but mic, camera, you can see the presenter, you can hear the presenter, the mic is good on them, you can hear them, you can see what they're saying, you can see the slide in the background, as well as see the individual. So we started to build, obviously the app, and start to do all these videos for the last 3 years. So we've collected hundreds and hundreds of hours of videos that from previous year's summits that will all be on there. And the nice thing about them is, Rocky, is that they're broken down in like 8 to 10 minute sections. So like for each video, there's like 10 to 14 parts to it. So you can stop at any time. Like you can stop and it knows what part you were on or where you finished off. It leaves you where. So you can stop it. And we did all the editing to cut it in a spot where you're not going to get lost into the next slide. Onto a slide. So you can watch them in small clips. You can watch them anytime. And it's just, we decided, well, this is great. All these videos that we're doing this summer, hey, continue it with the Zoom. So they're all going to be free. And that's, our vision for the app was something that it was going to be a product down the road. And we're like, you know what? This year, the app's going to be free to everyone. So we're going to offer the app to everyone for free with all previous summit education on there. So it's, we're close. We were just on a meeting this morning with the App Store, and we're in final submission, and the app's ready to go live. And We've already beta tested it, and once we go live, we're just going to test it out for a couple weeks, just to make sure that it's live. Everything is going through, and we'll in the next, I think around the middle of September, we'll be making that announcement live to everyone about go to the App Store, or either get it for your Apple or your Android, your phone, and download the Perform Better app. And there's so much we can do to it that's even way down the road. I mean, my vision was this, because of all these channels we created almost like a little mini YouTube app, which was geared around all of previous Perform Better speakers. So at first we just have speakers, but we're going to be adding all of the written education that people have written, so there'll be a Rocky Snyder page.
Yeah.
And
that's scary. That's completely frightening.
Yeah, you would have whether it's written stuff, things that you've written, or things that you posted, like exercises, whether it's 30-second clips or exercises. So we're going to file them under, so it'd be easy to find, all the presenters, all the different things of how they can quickly look at it. So yeah, no, it's our hopes for it. It's going to continue to grow. We're going to continue to work on it for the next couple of years, but at least people in the next 20 days will be able to start to download it and see a lot of, I think right now, there's like 800 hours of video of education sessions on there. So there's quite a few.
That's a long road trip, but that's good.
Yeah.
So I know we can't see into the future, obviously, and we're just kind of going one day at a time here, but let's just say that the air clears to the point where we can now have gatherings in groups more than 12 people at a time. Are we going to see Perform Better next year kind of pick up where it left off? Is that your hope?
That's our goal. I mean, our goal is, it was fun to do the Zoom stuff. We had great attendance. It was good to do them, but our goal is to get live, because for us, part of this whole thing about doing it, or why we started doing these seminars in the first place, was to meet our customers, to be face to face with them, and that's one of the things that I love to do, as well as my sales team, is love to meet people. Like the relationships we have with our customers are really great and something special. And sometimes it's, once a year we see these relationships only at a seminar, and that's the only time we see them once a year. We may talk to them 20 times a year on the phone with doing things for them, or getting them orders, or answering questions, but we really only see them face to face one time. So for us, that is very powerful to us. And that's, we enjoy that part so much. I can't see as, again, and I don't want to put myself in a hole right now, but I can't see as always doing the Zoom, because I do want to, maybe it's a combination. One of the things we talked about was we may put together a one-day lineup, where we have a full day of seminars next year, like our one day, but we're not going to do our one-day seminars next year, which usually start in January. They go January to May. But our goal is obviously to get the summits back. Obviously, everything's going to depend on when we hit January, February, what it's looking like for next year. So that's going to be, for us, that's going to be the key thing. But that's our goal. Our goal is to go live. And it may be a hybrid approach. It may be online, it may be live, and it may be new. And, and that's, I do got to say, one of these things that Zoom has provided us, and which we're doing, and I don't know if I mentioned it when you were on and speaking, but I think afterwards we came up with an idea, because, every day I get emails and calls from people about how do I become a speaker. And as you know, it's so difficult to be a speaker, because I only have 12 to 15 new speakers every year, but I get like 300 people who want to speak, and they're all good friends, good customers, all good educators or good people. Just some of them just haven't had a platform or did a presentation before. So what we're going to do this fall is we're going to do 2 or 3 weeks. I haven't decided yet. I'm waiting for this series to be done, but we're going to do a new presentation schedule in the fall with new presenters. So we're going to do that for sort of like a 45-minute presentation with 15-minute Q&A. Sort of, we'll be doing a Monday through Friday, but it'll be all first-time presenters. We'll try to see how the feedback comes, and where obviously we can't open it to everyone, because I'd still have hundreds, and I only have so much time. I'm only going to have 2 or 3 weeks to do it, but at least it's going to, maybe we can continue to do this with people who haven't spoke for us before, and just to give them a platform and to listen to what they have to say. So
a talent testing pool. I love it. That's such a great idea. And we're coming up on the clock here, and I know you've got to go. You've got other meetings, and I appreciate you wedging me in with this time right now. But I do have to say, when you brought up your sales team, I just can't get over how happy those people are every time I see them come June or August or when the Long Beach Summit is. Every time I see them, it's obvious that everybody enjoys working as a team there. It just shows, it exudes just a wonderful a hiring practice. Who's ever in charge of hiring, they're worth their weight in gold, because you've just got such a great company.
Yeah, no, we have a great team, and it's one of those things when the schedules come out for the summits and whatnot, it's, we throw it out to everyone to, which ones do you want to do? And we can't have everyone there because we still need some people back here answering the phones. But it's, it's great to see that all of them, unless they're traveling or on vacation or doing another show, they all want to be at the summits. Which shows they really like doing them and enjoy being there. And you can tell, like I said, you can see it in their face when they meet their customers. Because again, for them, it's like the same it is for me. It's once a year, or that one time a year, you see about 20 to 50 people that you talk to frequently, but you don't see face to face, so it's really it's good for us, and it's good for the team, and the team enjoys it. We enjoy them. Those are highlights for us. I mean, there are a lot of work that goes into them, but the reward on doing them is so gratifying that it's I would they could be 10 times harder and I'd still do them.
Well, honestly, from a customer perspective, it's the highlight of our year too, because we close down our studio completely on Thursday afternoon, and the staff here, we all jump in the same truck, van, whatnot, and we caravan down the coast. Some of us bring surfboards because we'll sneak out in the early mornings before the sessions begin. But we go in as a team. There's such great team building opportunity there, and we come back so much more cohesive that it's been a highlight, and it continues to be a highlight. So
that's teams I've heard do that. They bring the whole team out to it, and then when they go back the following weeks, every trainer who goes to, they always spread out. Some of the good ones say, hey, they require all their trainers to go to different ones, and then they give the presentation for the ones that people didn't go to, which is really, really powerful amongst the team group themselves of what they learned at that session. So I really like what people have done with them.
Honestly, your idea has really flourished and allowed so many people to benefit, including myself and my team. So I can't thank you enough. And I can't thank you enough for being on the show with me. So if
it's my
people
pleasure.
want more information, obviously performbetter.com, MF Athletic are two places they can go. And of course, the speakers are still going on. That's every Tuesday, 11 a.m. Pacific and 2 p.m. Eastern. Check them out. And then sometime near the end of September, hopefully with fingers crossed, that app will be available so we can see what we've missed throughout this year. Chris, thanks so much.
Rocky, thank you very much. I appreciate it.